presentation by Zanda, a demo of their amazing system, including the BizzyAI, which is fabulous new AI scribe tool, which we're all here to hear about. So yeah, thank you so much, Damien, who also introduced Claire for tonight. And yeah, it's so exciting to be here and a part of showing everyone who might be familiar with Power Diary and Zanda, or completely new users to the system.
Very good. Thank you, David, and thanks for having us today. And we might just start the presentation part too, Claire. If you click on that, it will start up, and then you'll be in control of our slides. My name is Damien Adler. So I'm one of the co-founders here and head of customer success. I'm a psychologist by trade, and I'll give you a little bit of the backstory in a minute. But previously was a co-founder. My wife and I also started a private psychology practice that we grew, and we actually only sold about 2 and a bit years ago. So that's me. I'll hand over to you, Claire, to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Damien. So I'm Claire. I've been with Zanda now for over 11 years. In my time, I've worked in customer success. I worked in data imports for new users transitioning to Zanda. I worked as a product owner, and right now I'm working as a product engagement and insights manager. So I'm really involved in looking at how people are using the system, how they want to be using the system, and shaping the product to meet that.
Very good. Okay, a brief sort of overview today. So we'll talk a little bit about Zanda for those who may not be familiar with us. And we're mainly going to focus today on showing you through BizzyAI, so our AI tools and how they work and where we're going with that. So we'll take you through a step-by-step demo and then show you all that. We'll also talk a little bit about security and privacy and how we approach that, and just also things to be aware of. Obviously, in any kind of fast-moving industry, there's lots happening, and that's fantastic, but we also just need to keep a bit of an eye on making sure everything is done in a way that's compliant and keeps us out of trouble. And then we'll finish off with looking at what's next for BizzyAI, and we'll also have some time for questions at the end. So if there is anything that jumps out, David's going to jump in and ask on your behalf. So we may do that as we go, but also we'll have some time at the end for questions if anyone has anything. Okay, let's jump into about Zanda. We've got a timeline there. I won't go through all the details, but I'll give you the highlights. So back in 2007 is when my wife and I started a psychology practice. By about 2010, we really could see that there was a need for better practice management systems in the health space, and particularly looking at cloud-based. And we could see, as I'm sure everyone watching this has experienced, that as practices grow, you get more and more admin and more things that we don't enjoy doing as much as actually the direct client work, and the business side of managing a practice can get can really sort of take over. So we got going in combination with my brother, who's the co-founder of Zanda. He has a background in technology, so it was a really good combination of me bringing the kind of practical experience in health practices, and he had a very strong background in technology. He'd sold his previous company to Telstra, so it's a perfect time. And then over the years, we have really kind of grown. So we started out focused primarily on Australia, because that's obviously where we are, and initially on, we have always had a sort of very strong sort of psychology focus. Now Zanda has grown, so we are now in 23 countries around the world. We've got over 30,000 practitioners, and we've also gone through and done a lot of extra work around. So we have external ISO 27001, we're formally certified. We also have the GDPR. We've had externally assessed and audited, same with our HIPAA, and same with our Australian privacy principles. So we take all of that very seriously and sort of take it to the whole next level. So I'll talk a bit more about that later. And finally, we also have an in-house DPO, so a data protection officer that we have full-time, that is just helping us look after data and be across all the regulations and laws and everything. So that will all come together when we talk about how we went about building Bizzy and wanting to make sure people could be confident about using the technology.
So maybe perhaps the point to drive home perhaps here, Damien, is maybe about the Zanda being a trusted brand, a brand that's been around around a while, that people are familiar with, because there are lots of AI tools that kind of seem to have appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when we looked at building AI, we actually looked at, do we partner, do we build it in-house, do we have, partner with someone that has a third party? And we realized that to do it securely and do it in a way that would give people confidence, we wanted to build it ourselves and have complete sort of control over all the elements for that exact reason. So it's a good point to make. The other thing too, just actually you drew my attention to, thank you, is that of course we used to be called Powdary. So if you've heard Powdary, we are the same company. We actually rebranded in November last year. So we were Powdary for a long time, but we rebranded, and that's so same company throughout all that time, same people, nothing else changed other than our brand at that point in time. Okay, we might click through the next one, Claire. There we go. So I'm not going to go over this in too much detail. Just to give an overview, that like Zanda, we have the full suite of features that you would expect, plus some more. So we really sort of design, we've got a very kind of strong focus on automation and teamwork, so allowing people to kind of work in closely together. We have a lot of automation to sort of take care of basically as much of the manual stuff we can get rid of as possible, and everything else you can imagine to operate a practice. A couple of things that we do that you won't find typically elsewhere is we have built-in practice operations manual. So particularly if practices are growing beyond one person, then having things formalized and having standard operating procedures and instructions, policies, procedures, all of that is built right in. And we also preloaded that with about 100 and something, I can't remember off the top of my head, pre-written policies and procedures, so people don't, you can do it that way. The other thing that we've actually just launched is internal messaging, so you can actually message each other. So think of if you're used to using Slack or something like that. So it's an internal messaging tool that sits within Zanda, so that you can securely talk amongst team members, share files, share whatever you need to, and it keeps it all within the Zanda platform. So anyway, I could talk all day about that. I'm not going to. We're going to focus on BizzyAI, and so we'll progress the next. And this is where I'm going to dive right into how this operates, and I'm going to get Claire to take us through this.
Thank you, Damien. So we'd like to introduce BizzyAI today, and that is Zanda's, or yours if you're using Zanda, your AI-powered assistant. So BizzyAI at this stage is what we're going to demonstrate is our transcribe functionality. So what we see here is BizzyAI Scribe. So this is the transcription functionality that will produce your notes for you and also give you the ability to refine your notes. We do have some upcoming AI functionality as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the timeline at the end of the presentation. But we are looking at and currently beta testing a refined functionality for your client communication. So when you're writing letters or emails in the client's profile, you'll be able to use AI Refine to either generate or make it a bit better, your content. And then very exciting is our BizzyAI Insights functionality. So this will allow you to leverage client history and practice patterns to produce client communications, produce reports, ask questions about your patient and more. So we'll talk a little bit more, as I said, about the timeline of when that's happening, but today we're going to hop in and I'm going to demo the scribe functionality for you. So I'm just going to set up my screen and I'll share that for everybody. Just checking you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
All good.
Yeah, perfect.
All good. And I
Thank
might
you.
just remind attendees to keep the questions coming. I've seen a few coming in, which we will aim to address towards the end of the demo. Yeah, please feel free to drop them in as we go on.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'm just showing you here just is to show when you're the account holder, you have control over whether your people that are accessing your Zanda account can enable and use, whether they can use the refine and scribe functionality. So as the account holder or somebody with that sort of permission set, you're in control to determine if these features are enabled. So it is something that you can opt into using. So I'm just demonstrating here that you can enable access to the refine functionality, and you can also then enable access to the scribe functionality. While we're here, I'll just mention as well, you can set the transcription retention period. So this will automatically delete your transcript after a set interval of time if you do choose it here. So I'm going to hop over now to the client's profile just to show you how this works. So what we're looking at here is I'm in a client's profile for a person called Julie Bell, and I'm looking at Julie's records. So we're looking at her clinical notes here. I have set up a fictitious transcript here that we're looking at that has been produced by our BizzyAI. So I'm just going to show you this note here. So I'm currently editing the note, and we can see I'm just using a template that's called SOAP. So this is just a standard SOAP template. Now you do have in Zanda the ability to set up your own note template, so you can control what sort of headers and what fields show up in your notes. So this is quite a basic multiple line fields, but we can add in different things such as switches or radio buttons or drop down lists. So we have a bit of control there, and we can also set like what the fields are called. So within this note template, I have also set up a switch here to record consent. So you can choose to do this within your note. Another option that people do within Zanda is they set up an online form, and they actually send that to the client just to get their consent, and clients can then type their signature to confirm. Okay, so this is just an example of a transcript that we pre-set up. So I'm going to click View Transcript just to show you how that looks. So if we can imagine this was a conversation between a psychologist and a patient, this is what we're viewing here. So as we can see, it's really long. So this is sort of looking at what a 50-minute session may look like in terms of content. If we did want, we could click into here and edit any of this content if something didn't look quite right or we wanted to make some modifications. So we could make some changes. And I just put some changes here, and we could save that into the note. So I'm not going to do that now because it's already produced a note for us, but we can see that it's then put the content into the fields. So I am going to do a little demo, but obviously it's not going to be as long as this. We don't have 50 minutes to sit through a session. So I'm just going to show you how it looks for a very brief sort of dictation. So I'm going to hop into a new note. And I'm going to click on the transcribe functionality. So this is where I would go if I was sitting with my patient and I wanted to start my session and start recording, or if in this example, it's the end of the session and I'm going to just tell it a little summary about the session for it to produce a note for me. So we can see on the right-hand side that it has picked up some information in the context notes. So this picks up the client's name, age, gender, and pronouns, and this is feeding it to the AI model so that it can then incorporate that into the note if needed. So you can also type into here if you have some other observations, for example, while you are recording, and that will be incorporated into the note. Okay, so we also have the option to test our microphone. So this is a good idea just to check that it is actually picking up your sound before you start recording, especially if you're using a new device or something like that, just to make sure it is picking it up. But I'm going to start recording. So we can see it's picking up my audio, which is really good, what we want. We don't want this to be flatlining. Okay, so I'm just going to give an example dictation. So I'm just going to read that out now. Julie presented today for a follow-up psychology appointment. She had been maintaining her weekly planner and worry list and did find this was easing her rumination and alleviating some of her anxiety. Julie has been feeling persistent low mood and has had some ongoing life stresses. Julie has been trying to maintain daily walks, but can't always do it due to the cold weather. She does find that this lifts her mood. Julie has followed up with her GP and will be receiving B12 injections in the future to manage her low levels. We discussed CBT techniques and how they can be used when experiencing negative thoughts. And I will try to meet again with her in 1 week's time for a follow-up session. Okay, so I'm just going to add in some written context notes here. So we can imagine that I might have typed this during the session.
Actually, on now.
Now I have to spell properly.
That's good. It'll work it out anyway. It doesn't matter if you put typos in here. The AI will.
It'll figure it out.
It'll figure it out. You don't need to worry about it.
I had to prove I could spell though, so I fixed it.
Maybe this is also a good time to remind anyone who's new to AI that what is happening during the recording, which could be the dictation or it could be the session itself, doesn't need to be in order. The system is very sophisticated and can kind of figure out which sections, the discussion should be slot into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and in a normal session, like you just press that record as Claire did at the start of the session, and you just have your exact normal session. You don't have to worry about starting at a particular time. The AI will look at will make a transcript, and it will think about what was relevant and not relevant, right? So let's say you were having a bit of chit chat at the start of a session, which isn't unusual, but isn't necessarily that clinically relevant. You might be talking about the weather or something. Don't worry, that'll all be in the transcript, but when it comes to writing the notes, it's smart enough to know what to include and what not to include. So it's a very good point, David. You don't need to worry about any of that. Same with what Claire was doing there. If you put typos or anything in it, it wouldn't matter at all. It'll fix it. So it's good.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just on that note as well, so because I am using a SOAP note, we can see that I've set out the headers for each section. So this is going to guide the LLM basically, or the AI, what information from the transcript should it then feed into each section of this note. So what we're going to look for is that the subjective information has gone in this field, for example, and so on. If you do, because you can customize your note templates, you can set up specific headers, and the LLM is going to look and add that specific information into that field for you. So if you have a very particular need about how you like your notes written or where you like the certain information, it does use this as a bit of a guide of where to put that. So you do have a bit of control there as well.
If you put a heading like mental state examination, for instance, it will pick out all the content from that conversation to write out the mental state examination. And the template having that there will tell the AI, hey, I know what you're after, and it will write it out. And then the elements that are more of an objective observation, you might put in the context notes. So if you were commenting on the person's appearance and behavioral features, in that it will pick it out of the context notes and put it into the mental state, because it will understand that's what you're aiming to do by having that heading. Okay,
I'm going to click finish and update note. This is going to, as we see, it's going to then send this transcript across to the LLM. After this, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's actually happening, like what's communicating with what. But depending on the length of your transcript, this may take a minute or so, but it was pretty quick for us today because we had a very small transcript. I did also want to add that if we have content already written in the note, that it will also pick up that context. So if you jot down some information in the subjective field, it's going to also pass that to the AI and use that to incorporate into the note, along with your transcript and that other written context. Okay, so with that said, we do have a note here that has been produced. So we can have a quick look through just to check that the information is correct. So it has picked up that the appointments for today, it's picking up that what we mentioned, that the clients maintained her weekly planner and worry lists and so on. So it's picked up that right information in the subjective field. And I'm just going to scroll down and we can see right down the bottom, the plan picks up some things that we needed to follow up. So scheduling a follow-up session in a week's time, continuing with her exercise and getting the B12 injections. So it has, as we said, picked up the information from that transcript and it's put it in the appropriate area in the client's note. Now, if we did not like the change for whatever reason, if we did put in a refinement, for example, we did have the option to undo it. So if I did have content in here, I would be able to undo that. Because I had a blank note, there's nothing to undo to. But we can give it a little test. So what we see up the top here is we've landed on this refine tab. So if I did want to make some changes to the note, I could use this area here basically to prompt the AI to make that change. So we see some default options here I could choose, but you can type anything you like in. So I'm going to just paste one prompt we can use here. So I'd like to update the note to be in bullet point format. And again, this may just take a moment just to process all of the content.
Just while it's doing that for a quick moment, there's just one question I think that's worth just answering now. They want to know, Rakesh wanted to know if you're willing to answer questions on other areas of the system today, not just on BizzyAI, because then he can ask some other questions as well.
Yeah, let's see how we go for time, perhaps. Yeah, I was thinking, let's see how we go for time. If not, definitely get in contact with our support team, but we'll see perhaps if we have enough time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this has just responded to me. I've asked it to do something and it's responded, and I hope it said, yes, I will do that for you. So if we scroll down, we can see it's put it in bullet points for me. It's nicely indented the reported information. So it's obeyed what I've asked it to do here. So again, we can use this refine section to make any changes we like. If I didn't like the change, though, I could undo that and we go back to what we had previously. So it's like an immediate undo redo for the sort of change that's just happened here. Okay. The other thing to show you is our AI settings. So if we did have particular preferences that we wanted obeyed every time, this is your place to go. So your AI settings are configured per user. So that is like, you can think of it as per practitioner that logs into Zanda. And they can set this up once. You can always come and add to it. But it lets you basically tell the AI, as soon as you finish your transcript, this is how I want my note to be written. So we can see here there's some default options. So for how we prefer the note to be formatted. So do we prefer a longer like paragraph format or in bullet points? And also the level of detail. So if we want it to be quite detailed and lengthy, or if we'd prefer it to be quite concise. As we can see, my default preference was for it to be formatted in paragraphs, which is why it produced that immediately for me. But I was able to ask it to then produce it in bullet points, which it did. We also have custom preferences. So this is where I can type anything I like, sort of command it and how to produce a note. So I've put in an example here just to say that I want them to use the client's name when referring to them, and also how I prefer the dates to be formatted. These are just two examples, but you can make this quite extensive. So you can tell it exactly like, in this section, put this particular information, anything you like here.
And that will persist, right? So when you put that there, that's not just for this particular note. You can put those instructions in there, and anytime you go and do that particular, it's based on each user. So anytime you go and do notes, it will listen to those instructions. So those settings that Claire was just showing you, you do once and then forget about it, right? Or you might make little additions. You might go, you know what, I really like it when it's like this. So you could put a little note in there, hey, can you do this? And then it will remember that. So the idea is that as time goes on, it's learning more and more, and it's getting refined more to be exactly how you want it. And when we see that happening, because we we have a look at the data of how many times people refine a note, right? So that tells us like whether the AI is getting it correct to begin with. And what we're seeing is that there's not a lot of the need for refining when the AI transcript's been used, and then the note that users are getting is matching what they want, because there's very little sort of we obviously can't see the detail of it because it's all encrypted, but we can see, like, if people are hitting like refine, right, then we know like the number of times that content's been refined, and we use that as an indicator as to whether we are it's producing something that is useful straight away or needing lots of work. So we can see that that's working.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the last time I looked, the average was about 1.6, but that was right at the very start. So it's very yeah. It does mean that the note that's being produced does not require a lot of refinement, and you can use these custom preferences to really get it to personalize for your sort of style and your output preferences. So there's no need to come in here every time and tell it, make these particular changes, but you do have the option. So it is there if you do need it. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Fantastic. I'm going to stop sharing and we'll hop back into our presentation. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to skip across now, and as I said, just mention briefly how it works on the back end. So as Damien mentioned and sort of spoke to, we do have a big emphasis on security at Zanda. So we are using two trusted systems. We are using AWS Transcribe, which is an Amazon product for our transcription. And then we're using Amazon Bedrock as the environment for our LLM or our AI note writing product. And we're using Claude as the model in that environment. So when you press transcribe, we are streaming the audio across to Amazon Transcribe, and that information is encrypted as we stream it. That information goes to AWS. They basically transcribe it in real time, so the conversation is converted to text. There's no recording stored by Zanda or by Amazon Transcribe. They send that text back to Zanda. Again, it's encrypted when they send it back. So that at no point is there a recording that is stored. That transcript then comes back and we'll see it in the view transcript option in Zanda. And that information, again, is also encrypted in our database. So you are the only person that is going to see that transcript if you have access to the note. Okay. For our refine, so as I said, we're interacting with the Amazon Bedrock environment and they're hosting the Claude model. So again, that information that we said that we're passing across, so the any note content that's already in the note, the transcript itself, and the context of the client, we're passing that across to get the note produced. Again, that's all encrypted. Nothing is stored by that Amazon Bedrock environment. And then they're passing back a note that they produce to us. So again, that note that comes back into Zanda is encrypted. So you are the only person that is able to see that in your Zanda account, and any other users that you've enabled access to view notes in your account.
Yeah, and there are different ways that different companies have kind of set this up, and we might go to the next slide, and I might just explain a little bit about the security and privacy. So we've structured that way so it's a very clear workflow, and that we're in control of those environments totally. So we're not sending. So when we're looking at that, having that in Bedrock, like that's a Amazon environment that we control and only us. So it's not sending it off to, in some cases, people are having OpenAI, ChatGPT, they're sending the transcripts out and back. That's not necessarily to say that if they do that, it's entirely bad. There are ways to do it, right, that are that can work. But in this way, what it ensures is that we have the right agreements in place with Amazon to make sure that the data only stays with us and is not used, it's not fed back to the models for any training, right? So the data can't get, like, literally the AI model that's made by Anthropic sits in Bedrock. I know it's a bit confusing, but ultimately what happens is that Amazon create environment that we have access to, the model sits in there, but the company that made the model, Anthropic, they can't actually see it or get any data back out of it. So essentially it's like a program running in isolation. And that's really important, right? Because of the type of content that is being sent. It's very, it's essential that content is not being used to train the AI. A lot of services AI services that have popped up, the reason that they're free or cheap and things, just in the general space, not specifically clinical space, but is because they want people to use it and interact so that it can train the AI, right? So that's why we've set things up in the way that we have. So everything that you kind of see is being encrypted in every direction and at rest. So nothing gets stored in the Amazon environment or in the AI stuff. It gets stored in our servers and encrypted so that it's completely inaccessible. We couldn't read the notes ourselves, for that matter. Like the database, it just looks like gobbledygook, which is what it should look like. The other thing about a comment about Amazon, we found it very early, going back maybe 9 months, we were doing a presentation about using Amazon for the transcription. People were surprised they didn't realize that Amazon or AWS, they sort of thought about Amazon as a consumer. They get things sort of shipped to them, and they was like, oh, can you use Amazon for that? And they had various views about Amazon as a company and so forth. So what I just want to say is, yes, first of all, it is the same company. Technically, it is the same company, but it's very different divisions and very different way of operating. So Amazon Web Services, that's AWS, that you'll see referred to, is it's the largest and very secure, very reliable platform. It's used not just by us, it's used by, we did look it up actually, we used to have the stats, but it's used by a chunk of the Australian government for managing all the sensitive data. It's used by a lot of the big banks. It's used by security in US, some of their intelligence agencies. I mean, it's a very, it's commercially developed for running all sorts of applications, and the way we have it running is to run sensitive. So it's not, we did find when we first did a presentation, people were like, oh, that we realized we need to provide a little more context around that. So half the world essentially runs on Amazon, and the way we have it configured, it's set up in a way that ensures it's everything is encrypted and complies. We've got a few of the certifications that we have up here. So it's HIPAA compliant for the US, but it overlaps with Australia. We have our ISO 27001 certification, which, if you're not aware, is sort of the international standard for information technology security. Most, I can say without being negative about others, but most of our competitors in our space haven't done that yet. And we also, of course, have binding agreements with Amazon and with our providers to make sure that data can only be used by us and accessed by us, and isn't used for those other purposes. The other thing to just touch on while we're talking about security and privacy is that, as you sort of expect when new technology evolves, a lot of companies popped up that are sort of operate in isolation. So or maybe they did something else, but they added on an AI sort of scribe feature. And there's a couple of things that we just need to be mindful when you're using different technology. So one, of course, is to make sure that the company, if you are using a third party, has the appropriate background in managing the secure data, because some companies that have popped up is sort of like, it's not necessarily their natural space. So without going into that too much further. But the other thing to be mindful of is the copying and pasting risk. And this is something that I think hasn't really got enough attention, but it was something that we really looked at and was part of the decision to build internally with these features, because often people don't realize that when you copy and paste from any third-party application, not just an AI application, but that places it onto your clipboard, whether it's Apple-based or Google-based. Now, within your clipboard, that's something that can be universally accessed by lots of other apps, right? Because it makes sense if you think about it, that you copy and you paste things between apps and you don't really think about it. But depending on the configuration, you'll notice that you can copy and paste between devices, right? Have you ever done that? You copy on one device and then you paste, and it's wonderful most of the time, right? But one of the things we don't think about is, for that to happen, right, when we copy stuff onto our clipboards, that goes into a cloud environment and it becomes available to all the other devices. And when that happens, there's a few risks, but we can lose jurisdictional control. So that's about where is sensitive data being stored. And often when that copy paste happens, it's going into a cloud environment and going and coming back out again, but not necessarily in a way that complies with what we need to comply with. And the other thing to be mindful of is that it stores, depending on your settings and which devices you're using, but people think about copying and pasting as a one-off, like I copied, pasted, and that's gone. But you'll often find that there's a whole history of all the copies and pastes that you did that are being stored. So you can go back and say, well, show me something that I copied and pasted 3 copies and pastes ago, and you can find it and it's there, right? So normally it's fine. I mean, like everyone use that all the time. But just be mindful when it's sensitive clinical information, you copying and pasting, and just checking if you are using that, if there are ways of kind of locking that down at all. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but making sure it's not keeping history, making sure you're not doing cross-device sharing, things like that. So you try and minimize the exposure of having that data out there. So it's something, as well as the risk of other applications that can, that have a technical access to that. So just something to be aware of, and certainly part of why when we architected things the way that we did, we wanted to build it directly in the app, so there wasn't a requirement to do that. In fact, we even flirted with developing a standalone tool ourselves. And when we originally, with it, but then when we looked at it, we realized that there were some issues with doing that, and decided that we would just keep it embedded within Zanda and not offer it external to Zanda. Okay, we might jump to the next. We're just about, I think, covered all the things that, yeah, so we mentioned this before, that we have a DPO, a data protection officer. So again, this is, so even like to develop something like AI, our data protection officer goes through, looks at all the regulations, gives us all the requirements, then checks each of the providers that we might be using. So checks with our contracts with Amazon, making sure that everything is kind of ticked off, and that there's certain things we can and can't do to make sure that we comply strictly, with making sure that it's compliant, and we're not going to, that people can use it confidently in the psychology profession and not be worried that they're going to violate something. So it's the things that are not seen often, because it's all behind the scenes, but it's really important, like to make sure that those sort of perhaps more boring details are sort of attended to. They don't make great marketing copy, but it is really vital that we're looking at that, and you can see some of the certifications and things that we have. Okay, we might jump ahead, Claire, to the busy timeline, and we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we do have some different products coming out in the BizzyAI side of things. So as we demoed today, we have our BizzyAI Scribe, which is available now. If you aren't yet a Zanda user and you can create a 14-day trial to have a look at Zanda, you do get 3 free hours of transcription. So you can transcribe and give it a test. So that is available now. We do, in terms of our pricing, if you are subscribed, it is based on usage. So our pricing is $1 per hour. So for each transcription hour that you use, you get billed based on that. And we have like a monthly billing cycle, so it's based on your usage within that month. So this does mean, if you take a holiday and you're not using it, then you don't need to pay for it. So you're just charged for what you're using there. So that's our AI Scribe functionality that we've demoed today. Upcoming, I do see some questions about, is it coming in letters? And I was quickly typing some responses, but yes, this is coming in letters. So with our BizzyAI Refine functionality that we did see in the notes section that we demoed, we are currently beta testing that now in the client communication pages. So yeah, creating letters, creating emails. We're also rolling this out for our practice manual, as Damien mentioned, where you can create your practice policies. These will all have that refined functionality. Looks a little bit different, but works very much the same. You can create or refine content using that. So that is going to be, and will continue to be a free feature, that refine functionality. And lastly, the BizzyAI Insights. So as I mentioned before, this will allow you to query anything about the client in their profile. So think of it like a chat bot within the client profile where you can ask it questions about the client, so an update on their progress or a summary, anything like that, pre-appointment summary, put it in there and it will give you that information. So this is coming soon. We hope to see this in the next few months as well.
Yeah. And that will be really exciting. So one of the things that is cool about some of these features then is because if you're writing notes and things like that, so we'll have the function there. But as we develop, then the ability to read the session notes and write the letters for you based on those sessions, right? So like as it kind of rolls out, it will get more and more kind of sophisticated and be able to do more and more of that work. So instead of having to go back and read let's say the last 6 sessions, if you're doing a review session with the GP, it will look at your GP note template that you have, which, if you're using Zanda, but you can create note templates. So it knows what you want answered, and then it will look at the previous notes and develop insights from that and actually create and draft the letters for you. So there's so many, which is just is fantastic. And then the other sort of functionality we see coming with insights, which is a little bit still being developed, so that one's not out in beta yet, but is you be able to query things like, there might be things that you've mentioned maybe 4 sessions ago and need to pick up, right? So I know I used, sometimes that happens in sessions, right? You kind of, you said a few things, you said some homework, you did various stuff, and then stuff drops off the radar, right? That's easy to get kind of drift away from the treatment plan. So with things like insights, we'll be able to say, are there any things that I haven't closed the loop on, things that we kind of raised or things I need to ask? Going into a session, you could ask it, hey, what do I need to ask today? Is there any follow-up I need to do? And it will actually be able to query it and give those answers. So think of it like a really helpful assistant that is there feeding you all the things that you need, so you can focus on being present with the client and focusing on the overcoming some of the human error stuff that can easily creep in for all of us.
Thank you.
I think that is what we had prepared, if I'm right, Claire. Yes. So.
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. We might open up for questions, and
can I just suggest a few quick things, if you don't mind, for 30 seconds before maybe we'll take the questions?
Yeah.
If that's all right. I just think it's just maybe worth driving home perhaps that benefit that you just raised about the fee per hour. So that might have a particular appeal, for people who are part-timers or not doing a full week, because then they're being charged maybe more proportionately. And I think the other, major big sell around Zanda is the whole, being a practice management system and Scribe in one means it's a lot less complicated working between the two systems, and there's no sort of integration that really needs to be set up because it's all there, and you get a whole big practice management software sort of suite in one. I think maybe as well that sort of smaller add-on telehealth could also be worth a mention too, perhaps.
Yes. So do you want to talk about that, Claire, or do you want me to talk about Zoom?
Yeah, Zoom. Yeah, I can speak to Zoom. So we've recently integrated with Zoom as our platform for telehealth. So that is, again, integrated really nicely with Zanda. So you can switch that on per practitioner. If you do have multiple practitioners, you can choose which of your practitioners are using Zoom. And yeah, within Zanda itself, you can trigger the call. We can automate sending the Zoom link to your clients as well. So as part of their reminders, you can send them their Zoom link. And it's a nice high quality functionality to meet with your clients via telehealth. So yeah, that's a very important feature as well. One of many of our key features within Zanda. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that we released earlier this year, I think. Is that right? We changed that. Was it March or something?
I think it was late last year. I've got a terrible memory, so
yes, it's in our. If you ever look at our logs, we have all the release notes we've got in our in a section there. But yeah, and that's amazing, right? Because we had a previous telehealth function that worked, well, but it was one that we built, during the sort of heat of COVID, and we wanted to. There was a bunch of factors that happened, but we wanted to really iterate on in a way that would give people a premium kind of experience. And so we did a deal with Zoom and partnered with them, and so now the quality, reliability, the way in which Zoom's the world leader at sort of establishing the right kind of connection and the right level of quality depending on each person's internet connection and things like that. And that's been amazing. And of course, to be clear, it's done in a way that is compliant, that ticks everything off, that meets compliance anywhere in the world. In fact, it's the way that's sort of set up. You can be in any jurisdiction in the world and talk to anyone in the world, and it will be compliant. So that's something that we're really pleased to kind of get out. And look, there has been an approach too, David, as you were saying about keeping things in one system. Like as you're saying, we've been around for some time, and that has given us sort of experience of building out the platform and trying to keep it as simple as possible, and building the features that people need directly within it. So it's not reliant on lots of different third-party kind of things that are all cobbled together to kind of give that functionality, and that allows us to do provide a smoother experience. Less when there's less joins, there's less cracks that can occur. And it's been it's been a number of years now, and every year we have more and more people than we had the year before, so we always take that as a good sign.
Fantastic. So should we go through the questions?
Yeah, let's do it
if you like. So we've got a few questions about the letters, where Julie's asked, is there any way to use BizzyAI to migrate into letters, or is this a plan for the future? And Anne-Marie also mentioned, yes, she would like to use for GP letters, which you kind of touched on a bit, but do you want to add anything else to that?
I would encourage any current Zanda users, if they are interested, we're setting up a focus group right now. So if they're interested, send through an email to support@zandahealth.com and just mention that you'd like to be included in the focus group for Refine. You can mention Claire as well. Claire sent me here. That email will make its way through to me, and I'd be happy to include you in our focus group so you can get early access. So yeah.
Great.
That's not it's not a focus group to then wait months for it. That's they'll be included in that fairly quickly, right, Claire?
Immediately. I can pop it on for you. So that one's ready to put out there and get some feedback. So we'd absolutely love people that are interested and willing to give some feedback on it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So essentially, we just turn on a switch for your account, and so that feature's built. It's there. But we do go through a bit of a process where we like to have a sort of a private group that wants to try it out early and give us early feedback and be part of shaping it to make sure that before we do a general release that we're everyone's happy with it and it's doing the right things.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a question from Martina. Will this webinar be recorded, available to share with the team?
Yes.
I see that it is being recorded. As to where it's shared, I believe that does go on our YouTube channel. But Damien, do you have any?
Yes, no, we have everyone that's joined. We get when you signed up and you get that form. We actually get that, and we'll send out a recording. So our team will send that out in the next sort of day or two. They just check the recording to make sure it's fine. Then they'll send it out to you. So you'll get a link to that, and you'll be able to rewatch it. And that's it. We'll also, David, we can. You'll actually get a copy as well.
Yeah.
But if you didn't want to share that, go for it as well.
Sure.
If people ask for it and that weren't in the webinar today, we can do that. And then it does go up on our YouTube, I think, at some point as well.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Rakesh, I think his first question we've already answered. The other question, is voice recording saved, or is it just used to convert text via the AI?
Yeah. So we don't store any recording of the voice at all. So we are just passing, like, the streaming live the conversation in sort of packets, and that is coming back to us just as text. So at no point is any recording being saved by Zanda or by our transcription service. So we just get that transcript back. And again, as we mentioned, you can set the deletion period. So if you do want that transcript to be deleted at regular intervals, that can happen as well. If not, you can choose to keep it in the record forever if you would prefer.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. We've got a question from Julie. Is there any way to give more relevant information into context notes that does not change, so you don't have to re-enter each session? For example, diagnosis, funding.
Yeah, that's a great question and an interesting one. Not a use case I've come across before, but that is interesting. So at this stage, no. The context notes pick up some information, like basic client information. But I did see this one before, and I was thinking about how you could achieve it. One way could be to put that information in your note template, and then you can clone a note, sorry, for the client. So you have some information about the client in their note. You can clone that every time you create a new note. It would pick up that context and use it when you create an AI note. That would be one workaround, but I'd definitely be interested in finding out if people, if there's more interest in this. It's definitely something we can add. So if there's others watching this that are interested, we do have an ideas board where you can submit your ideas and things that you would like to see at Zanda. So definitely jump on and add this idea if you're a current Zanda user. I'd love to know if this would help you too.
Yeah. And just on that, that's just how we get, how we, over the last 15 years, how we've keep developing and all the rest of it is it's based on this feedback, these sort of ideas, and the new ideas board's great. It's, you can actually see it and vote on things and all the rest of it. Yeah, and there's probably, I can think top of my head, a couple of ways we could potentially achieve that, like where we could save the context notes at a client level. So there would be a way that we could reserve or preserve those. Another idea that this is iterating product on the fly here with you, Claire, but there is a way, like as we develop the next phase, which has insights will give the AI more access to other elements of the file. So because it needs to provide insight on the client, we could actually put in there in the instructions, always include diagnosis, etc., in the general AI, in the AI instructions, and that will bring it through on those clients. And it will look at the file and say, what's the diagnosis, and bring that in. So there's even in the pipeline a way that we could actually achieve that. But yeah, get on there, put it on the ideas board, and if other people are interested, as Claire said, let us know.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. Tracy's asked, do you already have a template for clients' permission to use BizzyAI?
Yes, we certainly do. So at Zanda, we have the form templates, which are similar to notes, but these are things like forms are things that you can send to your clients as a link, and they can go and fill this form out. And it also allows you to set up information on the form. So we do have a library of pre-built forms, and one of those are about AI scribe consent form, I think is the exact name of it, if I remember correctly. But that does include some information about the scribe functionality at Zanda, and it gives the client the opportunity to type the signature in to confirm their consent for it. So if you go into our form template library, you can add that to your account and start sending that to clients. But yeah, as we showed, you can also modify your note templates if you want to add a little toggle on there, or some way to indicate on the note itself you've gained consent. Both of those options would work.
Awesome. Thank you. And probably a good idea in each session to check in that their client knows. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Sorry, Damien.
Oh no, it's a good point, David. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got Jen just mentioned as a comment. I don't have a question yet, but just wanted to say this looks fantastic. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you,
Martina said, does this need to be done on every client profile, the customized setting?
Yes. So that is like set per user. You access it when you're in the client's note. So while you're transcribing, or before you're transcribing, or after it, once you see the note template that has been produced, you have the opportunity to go in and access those AI settings and put in your preferences. Those preferences are saved. So every time you produce a note, it will look at those preferences and apply them. So they're not client specific, they're specific to you logging in for every note you create.
Yeah. So you go into another client, open up a new note, you'll see those same customized options that you wrote the last time for a different client sitting in there. And so do it once, you can forget about it, or add another idea to it, another preference later on, it will preserve it.
Yeah. And I think as well, like something I've observed is that you can keep iterating on this. So, it obviously takes natural language, but sometimes, you'll play with it and see that the note it produces might not be quite what you're wanting. So you have the opportunity to go in and just, continue to modify that until it does produce sort of the content that you were after. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. I don't know if you've kind of answered the question here already from Martina. The next question, can it be set as a default for all clients as a system setup?
Yeah.
So the answer would be yes.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you. Marianne, and we're getting questions coming in hard and fast here, which is great. Marianne's mentioned sometimes when I finish and update note, I get notification that the note is produced, but I can't see it in my template. And I need to tell BizzyAI it is not visible. Not sure why this happens.
Yes, I had sent through a quick response to Marianne not too long ago, but this is a bug that we have had another report of. We are currently fixing it. I believe we have a fix ready for testing. Briefly, like the issue does seem to be like a character set that isn't being handled correctly that's causing an error in the production of the note. So our team are working on a fix here. I'm quite sure we'll be able to get this out in the next few days. But yeah, Marianne, if you could contact us on the support email address, we'll be able to let you know when that is updated. But definitely tell us if something like this happens. We want to get on it and quickly and get it fixed for you. So yeah, thanks, Marianne.
Thank you. Rakesh has just mentioned the recording function is really interesting. So here's an everyday use case where an alternative healing practice offering guided meditation. Reiki. I hope I pronounced that right.
Reiki, yeah, I think Reiki.
That's right. Chakra balancing, etc. A typical 2-hour appointment includes 30-minute consultation, 45-minute silent healing, then 30 to 45 minutes post-healing consultation. Can the recording function be started at the beginning and automatically pauses during silent periods, then automatically resumes when conversation restarts, summarizing the key content and removing casual chit-chat?
Great question and great use case there. So it won't automatically pause during those silent periods. You can go in and pause it and then resume later when that silent period does end, but it won't automatically pause after a certain period of time. We do have a little notification that comes up if we haven't heard any sound from you for 15 seconds. We're a little bit worried that maybe your microphone disconnected and we don't want that to happen. So you will see that, but we're not going to pause it for you at this stage. But yeah, it will summarize the key content and it will remove that casual chit chat. So I don't know if you guys observed at the start when I started transcribing in my little demo, I was still talking about what I was doing and none of that was picked up and produced in the notes. So we are specifically looking for information related to like the session and content around that session and ignoring all of that sort of unrelated chit chat. So it will do that for you.
Excellent. And of course, I mean, I just maybe state the obvious. I might be missing something here, but like that period of silence doesn't really matter what happens with it necessarily. It'll doesn't need to get picked up as long as it resumes and doesn't drop out, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just put the alert on there so that in case something happened with the microphone, someone accidentally muted or whatever, we put an alert to show we haven't heard any sound for a little bit, just to make sure that we picked up on that scenario. But you just pause it and then undo it.
Lorna's just mentioned I've been using BizzyAI Scribe and Refine for about a month, and it's been a game changer for me. That's wonderful. So much time and energy saved in making this more efficient. Can you please comment on the distance away from the device you need to be, as I've found sometimes it doesn't capture sound accurately?
Great feedback, first of all. Love to hear that. As for the distance, that's a great question. I don't have any exact details I could give on that, and I do think it might vary as well by device. What I would say is to make sure that, like you can, as we showed, you can test your microphone and you want to make sure that you are getting an audio wave response there. I wouldn't feel confident that if I gave you a distance that it would be correct in your certain situation. I think there's a lot of different things that can impact if the sound is getting picked up correctly. So I would just say, like, if you do give it a little test and just make sure you do see those audio waves, and it will also play back the content for you. So give that a test before you do sort of use it. And if you are using it at that same distance, then you know it's going to pick up your sound. Yeah, that would be my advice.
You can. The other thing that I've seen, in fact, I saw this in the medical space, that I was talking to some medical providers that weren't our client base, but and they were talking about with the system they were using, they had bought like a little like a little external mic that they would sit, like a little podcast mic or something they just had on their desk, and that they were saying because they were moving around the consultation room, and so they were sometimes doing a physical exam and they had a similar sort of thing, and they found, I think they were saying it was like $50 or something. Yeah. So depending if you perhaps had an issue with the microphone on your device, or where your computer's sitting, that would be another option, is just to plug in a USB microphone, and that would certainly pick up everything in the room, because they're multi-directional, or you can set them to be multi-directional. So if there was an issue, that would be one, reasonably cost-effective solution. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of control, because we get the input from the mic device, so we don't get a lot of, we can read whether it's getting a signal, like as Claire was saying with that, but we don't get to customize the device itself, or to change the settings on that. But external mic could be an option if you found that was something that was a problem.
Great, thank you. Have you got a few minutes to do next few questions, or did you want to start wrapping up? Yeah.
That's fine. It's we can keep going. It's people have questions. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I might just mention firstly, just Julie's question. She was just asking, can you repeat the email address for the focus group? But I think that was just the support email to get through to you, Claire.
Yeah, that's right. So support@zandahealth.com. You should see it on the screen here as well now. So if you send it through there, and as I said, just mention my name and joining that group, it'll come through to me.
Thank you. And Britt has just asked, sorry if I missed this, will it be able to pull out medications, doses, changes and such as a section or heading?
So if it is I'm not quite sure I understand the question correctly, but if it's something that was part of the transcript, yes, it would put that into your note. So if you did have like a section saying medication, it would put that relevant information in there. I'm not sure if I've understood the question correctly though, so Britta, let me know if I haven't answered that one.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. And Lorna's just mentioned, I just asked, that was going to be my next question, if Zoom, using Zoom can still run the AI scribe.
Yeah, so at this stage, if you're using Zoom, for it to pick up the client side of the conversation, that would need to come through basically like out of your loudspeaker, essentially, for it to be picked up by your microphone. We do have a limitation in that we can't access the actual, your operating system to get access to audio feeds coming through that aren't detectable by your microphone, which I think from a security standpoint, it's good for you, but for us, it does mean we can't get access to that. So we have been working with Zoom. They are beta testing at the moment an option for us to be able to capture that, the conversation basically from Zoom and produce a note from that. But we are still evaluating if that is going to be appropriate for us and collecting interest from people. So again, if you're a current Zanda user and you want to express your interest, I'd recommend you hop on to submit an idea, because we'd love to hear if this is something that people are interested in. But yeah, it is something that we're actively monitoring.
Yeah. And so that just means if you're having the Zoom call now, just instead of having the audio come into your headset, just put it on speaker, and then it will work. So
it just needs to come through and be picked up by your microphone, basically, which is why it would need to come through the speaker.
Cool, thank you. Jen just mentioned it looks very user-friendly, especially for health professionals who tend to be tech cards. Okay, so thank you. Okay.
We build everything so that you don't, hopefully we achieve it, so you don't have to be technically minded. As a psychologist myself, I could, no, Jenny said, no offense to health professionals, that's funny. No, we really do try and build things that click a button, make it work, and we do the complicated stuff behind the scenes as much as possible. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Jen. That's funny.
Thank you. So I think that is just about all the questions there. So might start wrapping up. I guess for the night. Did either of you wanted to mention anything? I guess there's any other sort of final thoughts before we start finishing up.
Look, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come and talk to the group. as I said, I'm a member of the group and really enjoy all the conversations and things. So I am in there, and if there are questions, then I can answer them in there as well. But no, thank you very much. I think as all the people watching this, I'm sure AI enthusiasts as well, and I think done right, done safely, can be such a, as was said, a game changer. And I hope you like it, and give us your feedback. It's exciting to get this out there. Anything you want to add, Claire?
I think exactly what you said, and definitely encourage people to reach out if they have feedback or questions. It's been great to answer some of these here, but if you have more, get in touch, and we'd love to answer them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much all for joining. Really appreciate the community coming out tonight to give it a try and have a listen to Zanda. I think it looks like it's a wonderful tool to have the integration and the scribe all in one. Really comprehensive practice management system with lots of amazing features at present and seemingly on the way too, and the roadmap, which is really exciting. So thank you so much, and look forward to joining you all next time.
Great, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.